When you unlock Ultra Hard difficulty for the first time, you'll receive a message from Erin that notifies you Divide Quest is available now. Divide Quest is one of the core parts of base PSO2's endgame progression, giving out a lot of useful rewards that are crucial to endgame gearing, while also providing a decent challenge for everyone, ranging from newcomers of Ultra Hard difficulty to veterans who already have weapons and units done. In this video, I'll be going through the basics of Divide Quest, the mechanics of each stage, and how to beat them, all sorts of rewards from Divide Quest, and some general tips for Divide Quest. Alright, let's jump in. Divide Quest has 35 stages, but you'll need to climb your way up from stage 1 if you're just starting. Each quest contains 5 stages, and each stage functions like a mini quest with one objective. Once you arrive at the teleportation area, there are 2 routes of random stages to choose from. The left route is point route, which rewards additional points based on clear rank, and the right route is life route, which rewards up to 2 additional lives based on clear rank when cleared. During each stage, there will be a huge progress gauge on the top, indicating the final rank when the stage is cleared. The gauge is filled by completing the stage's objective, so for example, if the stage's objective is killing a boss, the gauge acts like a health bar for the boss. Even if you don't fully complete the objective of the stage when the time is up, the stage is still cleared with the current rank indicated on the gauge. If you die during the quest, you'll be automatically revived in 5 seconds, but you'll lose 1 life point, and when life point reaches 0, you'll fail the quest. For the first 4 stages, you can get random stages from the following 4 categories: Suppression, Eradication, Resupply, and Covert. For the 5th and final stage, it will always be a boss stage, and whatever boss you're facing is dependent on the current stage number. Divide Quest can have up to 4 people in the same quest, but it is fine to go with less people or solo due to the scaling mechanic. After a minute and a half, everyone in the map will receive a damage buff based on the number of people, and you'll get the highest possible boost if you are solo. Therefore, it's perfectly fine to try out Divide Quest by yourself even if you can't find any teammates to go with. Now, I'll go through the mechanics of each stage. In a suppression stage, your objective is to defeat a particular boss, or sometimes 2 bosses. At first, you'll find out that the rank gauge barely moves if you attempt to fight the boss right away. This is normal, since the boss has much higher HP than usual, and it's impossible to beat the boss within the time limit, and without any damage buffs. After a while, a single mob will appear after Erin announces it. Killing the mob will grant you the PSE effect of Attack Extra Up, which is the gimmick to increase your damage output. Killing this mob only gives level 1 PSE effect, and it is not enough to wear the boss down. However, you're still required to kill this mob, since other mobs will only appear if the first is killed. When the timer hits 2 minutes and 30 seconds, you'll receive the scaling buff. Shortly after, more mobs will appear. Killing those mobs will level up your PSE effect, and cause more mobs to spawn on the map. After killing 5 mobs, your PSE effect will reach level 5, which grants the highest amount of attack buff. Use this buff to quickly tear the boss down and finish the quest. On a side note, there are 3 boss stages exclusive to stage 31 to 35 interval, namely Exegil, Verina, and Sodom. On these stages, no ads will spawn, so you can solely focus on the boss. In an Eradication stage, your objective is to defeat 100 enemies that spawns in a particular pattern. Just like Suppression stages, there's also a gimmick for this stage. When mobs appear, some mobs will have a white orbit around them. These mobs will explode when they are defeated, dealing massive damage to surrounding mobs. You'll want to target bomb mobs first, so that the whole group of mobs will die from the bomb explosion. Sometimes, bomb mobs are not spawned close to regular mobs. In those cases, you'll want to aggro and gather these mobs close to each other, then target the bomb mobs to eradicate the group altogether. When the gauge just hit S rank, a few bomb mobs will spawn without any regular mobs. Killing these mobs will spawn additional bomb mobs next to them, which will immediately die to the previous bomb explosion, causing a chain effect that takes up most of the mobs in the S rank part. Finally, a boss with bomb will spawn along with some regular mobs. Target the boss down to trigger the bomb, finishing off other mobs in the process. In a resupply stage, your objective is to collect energy crystals while protecting the 4 energy pods. At the 3-minute mark, the first set of enemies will spawn beside 2 of the 4 energy pods. When an enemy attacks an energy pod, the rank gauge will fall off, so you'll want to clear those mobs as soon as possible, then head back to collecting crystals afterwards. At the 2-minute mark, the second set of enemies will spawn. You'll need to do the same thing as before, kill the mobs, then collect crystals. At the 1-minute mark, the third set of enemies will appear, along with a boss. As of now, your rank gauge should be close to 100%, and there are much more crystals appearing than before. Therefore, ignore the enemies and rush those crystals to get to 100%. If the gauge's diminishing rate is faster than your collect rate, you can either stick to collecting, or take out some troublesome mobs first, especially this Lumen Mech. This Lumen Mech deals a ton of damage to energy pods if unchecked, so make sure to take those out if you see a bunch of red numbers on your screen. In a Covert stage, your objective is to obtain quest points through collecting crystals and defeating enemies. At the start of the stage, the game will notify you of 3 random bonus targets, which include energy crystals, mobs and bosses. You will get more points if you collect bonus energy crystals and defeat bonus enemies, and the amount of bonus points is shown here. If you are soloing this quest, it may take a long time for mobs to die before getting the scaling buff, so focus on collecting energy crystals with your class's movement option, and only attack mobs that are bonus targets. After receiving the scaling buff, you'll have enough damage to kill mobs efficiently. As you reach the next rank, virtual devices will show up. They have no impact in terms of points and ranking, but they will provide you extra buff during the stage and extra reward when you finish the stage, so make sure to collect those. Each time you reach the next rank, 5 virtual devices will spawn, up to 20 devices when you reach 100%. If the boss is included as a bonus target, you can choose to fight the boss for a lot of points. If the boss is not a bonus target, just simply ignore them. At the 3-minute mark, corrosive rain starts to fall. You'll start taking 60 damage in a regular interval, and your healing received is cut in half. At the 4-minute mark, corrosive rain becomes stronger. You'll now take 100 damage instead of 60, and all healing effects are reduced to 1 HP per tick. This is the moment to end the quest if you feel like you're not surviving the rain. Head to any teleporter on the map, activate it and finish the quest. If your Dark Blast is ready, you can activate Dark Blast to survive through the rain. In this case, Elder Form is the preferred choice, since it has a dash on 5 seconds cooldown, and a heal that can heal you even after the 4 minutes mark. Covert quest is hard for newcomers to solo, so don't feel bad if you didn't reach high enough rank when you activate the teleporter. At the end, after clearing 4 stages, you will face the final boss. In stage 5 and 10, Silver Exegil will always be the boss. The boss's weak point is its front core, but its back core can be broken. Once you break its back core, Exegil will turn into attack mode, having faster attack while taking double damage. Generally you'll want to break its back core as soon as possible, then focus on the front core afterwards. During attack mode, Exegil may drop its ultimate attack which covers the field in lasers. You'll need to stay in midair at the height of 1 jump, since you'll take lethal damage if you stay on the ground, and you'll get caught if you jump too high. After the ultimate attack, Exegil will revert back to defense mode and you'll need to break the back core again. However, when Exegil's HP drops to below 25%, aka the gauge reaches S rank, Exegil will stay permanently in attack mode. Starting from stage 15, you might see Golden Exegil, featuring alternate patterns and faster attacks. Verina may also appear, and he is a pretty straightforward boss with no gimmick. And starting from stage 20, Mitra, aka Siva with a chair, also joins the fray. Mitra's chair can block your attacks, reducing damage to 10%, so you'll want to stay in front of her and hit her directly. When Mitra is below 50% health, she'll attempt a grab attack which can restore her shield if successful. Make sure to read her Q and dodge her grab. On stage 30, the bosses will always be Verina and Mitra at the same time. Verina will always start with his Saber Destruction attack, which can one-shot you. In my opinion, this is the hardest Divide boss in terms of mechanics, as you'll need to read and anticipate both Verina and Mitra's attacks, and either dodge them or counter them accordingly. I suggest sticking to one boss to make sure the later half of the fight becomes 1v1, which is much easier than 1v2. If you feel confident enough, feel free to use your multi-target PA or technique and damage them at the same time. When Mitra is around, Verina will not be as aggressive as if he's by himself. However, beware of his teleport bullet attacks and Saber Destruction attack. Finally, on stage 35, you'll face the real Siva. A lot of her moves are pretty straightforward, but you'll need to beware of two particular attacks. First, when Siva says this is hardly worth my time in English, or in Japanese. You'll need to stop attacking and wait until her shield goes away, or you'll be caught and get one shot by her counterattack. Second, when Siva is low on health, she will do a laser spammy attack, then stun you with two swords, and finally unleash a big explosion that one-shots. To deal with this attack, you'll first need to either guard or dodge all the lasers, and you'll be blocked if you attempt to leave the circle of her attack. When the two swords appear, make sure to dodge it since you can't guard the swords. If you get stunned by the swords, quickly mash your movement keys or joystick to recover. After that, Siva will start charging her explosion. At this moment you can leave the circle to avoid her attack. If you don't have time to leave the circle, dodge or counter her attack with whatever is available from your class. If you can deal with these two attacks, the rest should be a piece of cake. After overcoming all the challenges, you deserve some good rewards. Before you head back to the gateway ship, there will be a number of golden boxes based on the divide points you've got from the 5 stages. For each 25,000 points, one golden box will spawn. Most of the time, these golden boxes drop divide quest currencies including divide medals and lumen fragment ML. If you're lucky enough, you may get a rare camo, which is worth a lot of meseta. When you get back to the gateway ship, you may receive mail from Erin about weekly point rewards. You can check the weekly point rewards in the content information option, and it will show you how many points you've earned this week and the reward tiers, up to 1 million points. Weekly reward is the easiest way to get Verina, Mitra and Exegil modules, which are materials for making claws units. You also get a decent amount of divide quest currencies, including divide medal and lumen fragment ML. You can use these two to trade for useful items in the exchange shop on the second floor of the shopping plaza. The exchange shop refreshes its stock monthly. Among the available exchanges, the most important one is Lumen Crystal Grania. It is one of the materials for making claws weapons, and Divide Exchange Shop is the best way to get them. You can only exchange 4 granias per month, which means you'll need 1,400 divide medals and 800 emeralds if you want to exchange for all 4 granias. To obtain enough medals and emeralds, first you'll want to hit 450,000 weekly divide points for the weekly reward of 200 medals and 50 emeralds. Then, farm stage 1 to 10 for medals and stage 20 to 35 for emeralds. Covert stage will drop a lot of corresponding materials if you unlock all the virtual devices, so keep that in mind. Outside of medals, emeralds, and divide points, there are also individual drops from the bosses. All suppression stages have a chance to drop S3, Petalzia Song 2, which is the core component of a Petal Gleam weapon build. For Deus and Train Gidron stages, they also may drop super duper ultra rare camos including Concert Master and Arius M23. As for the final stage, Exegil, Verina, Mitra and Siva all drop useful weapon and unit fodders for affixing, including their glares, 8-slot Basilisk weapons for Phrase Decay, and 8-slot Dim weapons for Stat 6. Siva herself may also drop Crack 5 on units, which is one of the affixes in an endgame tier unit. Therefore, I suggest going through your divide drops carefully and don't accidentally discard or cube those useful weapon and unit fodders, especially Crack 5 on units. There are also many miscellaneous drops from each stage, but the video will be too long if I go through all of them. Phew, that's a lot to talk about the rewards. Now, I want to share some general tips regarding Divide Quest. Number 1. Farm the stage interval that you're comfortable at. Divide Quest's difficulty varies by stage interval, and the higher the stage the more difficult it becomes. If you're stuck at a certain stage, don't feel bad to farm the lower one, and take on the challenge again when ready. Number 2. Avoid difficult stages. Some stages, such as Apos Dorios and Omega Masquerader, are noticeably harder than other stages and you'll die to them much easier. When you see any of the hard stages appear in the route, you may ignore it and choose the other stage instead. If you are confident in clearing these stages, feel free to ignore this advice. Number 3. When unsure, take the life route for safety. Using the same table from before, we can see that starting from stage 26 you only start with 1 life. Losing all life points will result in failing the quest, and you will get 0 reward from it, regardless of what stage you're currently on. Therefore, if you're on a class without a built-in safety net, like Braver or Phantom, you may want to consider taking a life route to make sure that even if you die, it is not immediately game over. Number 4, skip covered stages to reach the final stage sooner. If you want to just farm the final boss, such as Siva for crack 5 units, you can skip covered stages so that you don't need to spend 3 to 4 minutes on it. At the start of a covered stage, you can head directly to the teleporter to finish the stage. You'll get nothing from this stage, but it is still considered as cleared. Each Divide quest instance has 2 stages of each type, so you can skip 2 covered stages providing they don't show up at the same time. Before the end of this video, I would like to thank everyone for 100 subscribers. I've received a couple comments saying that my videos provide a lot of useful and accurate information regarding base PSO2's state as of now. There are also a number of constructive discussions in my comments section, which adds more depth to the topics addressed in the video. I'm really grateful for these wholesome comments, for every viewer of my channel, and especially for my 100+ subscribers. Expect more to come, and that is for now. Thanks for watching, and peace.